Okay, today finds me on a beautiful, gorgeous day. It's not quite spring yet, it's still winter actually, but it's so pretty I could not stay in the house. So I'm out here going to check out the Sugar Hill Loop. Apparently there's a ruins of a French settlement here, and I'm going to find it. I love spring. I hate wearing my glasses out like this though, because I'm afraid they'll drop off in the woods and I'll come crawling out like Velma and Scooby-Doo or Piggy and Lord of the Flies. So you people think we're all ignorant, us Appalachians, but we know a few things. I didn't even mention Burgess Meredith in Twilight Zone episode, Time Enough at Last. I thought that was showboating, uncalled for. But let's get on the road and see what we can see here at Sugar Hill Loop and find that old French settlement ruins. This is where it all starts. I think it's about 3.5 miles all around, if I'm not mistaken. So let's try to take the old leg out, so hopefully it'll hold up. Verifying that we're at the Sugar Hill Loop. Beautiful. Beautiful view of the Clinch River. Let's keep walking. So the trail, relatively flat for the first good portion, as you can see. I've been on it probably, I don't know, 1/4 mile or so. Maybe more than that. With no end in sight. Stays right along the river. And alas, it's still going flat, straight path right along the river. So far pretty simple. I know it hooks back at some point because it's called a loop, for one thing. Using my deductive reasoning skills, and also because I saw the other side where people were coming down. So you go in this one direction for quite a while. As my breathing continues to get more and more labored. Now here we're seeing some things. For fans of Little House on the Prairie like myself, I can just see Laura Ingalls Wilder, Laura Ingalls, I guess, that time, running down that hill. Her little dress. What a gorgeous day, gosh, so glad. Love spring. It's not quite spring yet, but it's like a sneak preview of it. Let's continue on. Another really cool view once you turn that bend. Oh my goodness, it's so great. I'm just glad to be alive today, honestly. Makes me happy to see this kind of time coming again where we can get out and do a few things. I don't know if you can see that either, but looks like the railroad goes along there in the background. Oh, nice. I got a bench here. Oh, I know a place where we can go, still untouched by man. Sit and watch the clouds roll by, and tall grass waves in the wind. Probably thinking to yourself, wow, Shane should have told us that Don Henley was with him, but it's not Don Henley. It was me all along. To prove it, I'll sing the next line. So lay your head back on the ground, let your hair fall all around me, offer up your best defense. This is the end. This is the end of the innocence. That should cost me about 10 subscribers, and anxious to see how many people drop off right there. And you might say to yourself, Shane, why do you use nonsense in your videos? Well, I'm out here in the middle of nowhere, completely by myself, left to only my devices to entertain me. So, do I lose a few people? Do I turn off more people than I turn on? Absolutely. Is it worth it? Probably. Am I going to continue to do it? Definitely. I'll see you at the top of this hill. little bit over halfway up the hillside, that is. Beautiful views up here. So quiet. All I can hear is the wind blowing. Okay, so I made it to the top. Beautiful tree. In the background, you'll see some houses, but not the ruins of the French settlement I was promised. Well, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to find them, or I will die right here on this very hill on this very day in St. Paul, Virginia. Stick around. This could get exciting. Well, pretty far into this hike now, and no French settlement ruins in sight. Hope I did read that correctly. Maybe it was saying some sort of French tree. That's the only thing I've seen so far. Oh, well. Not looking good for the old chap. And my eyes deceive me. We're in the distance. What do I see? I hope there's more to it than this, but at least I found something. Let's keep walking. Surely there's more. I'll give you a quick view though first. Here we go. So we have the chimney. And I'll stop until I get a breath and then read this to you. Be back in a second. Okay, I think I've calmed down enough to at least read this intelligibly. The first green sign says in 1772, John English settled here, making him the first settler in present Wise County. On March 8th, 1787, Indians suddenly burst into his home, killing his wife, Molly English, and their 2 little boys. John English moved to Moore's Fort in Castlewood, and later sold this home and land to a Frenchman, Francois Pierre de Toubeuf. And now it talks a little bit about the French settlement here. In 1791, a French nobleman and coal speculator, Francois Pierre de Toubeuf, purchased a hand-hewn cedar log house that sat here for nearly 2 centuries, until vandals burned it down in 1976. God, what jerks. About 15 years after Daniel Boone resided in nearby Moore's Fort, the Frenchman, his family and his servants cleared this land and named it St. Marie on the Clinch. Baron Toubeuf was then killed by white thieves. The Baron's survivors left the area. Some of the murderers were tried and convicted in Russell County. Future owners farmed the land, and in the 1930s, a maple syrup and sugar operation existed here, thus the current name, Sugar Hill. It's hard to believe that it's right here, this peaceful, sleepy, I mean, you can't even hear anything but the wind. It's so quiet you can hear your own thoughts. To think that on a couple of different occasions, murders took place here. First, of course, the Indians killing some of the English family, and then Francois Pierre de Toubeuf. Met his Waterloo here. Need I say, the picnic shelter does not date back that far. Nor does the makeshift bathroom, just for clarification purposes. Let's see what remains down in here. Unfortunately, that man was just here to jog and take pictures and not murder me. Because wouldn't that be odd? We're kind of overdue on this spot. See a lot of loose brick here. Probably not the safest place. Those could fall off and conk you on the head at any time. And at least give you a headache, if not worse. You can imagine how majestic this was as a home place. It's gorgeous. No wonder so many people wanted to live here. So I'll stop here for a second to just hydrate. Not my favorite brand of water. I'd like to have a endorsement deal with the Cumberland Gap folks. Someone needs to make that happen for me. I'd kick any other water out of the way for that stuff. It's great. Sadly, they didn't pay me to say that. But it's important to stay hydrated. And I'll get back down over the hill here and show you anything else worth seeing. I do have a Johnny on the spot, job site Johnny, whatever you want to call it, should you need to unhydrate. Take one last look over this. Obviously not much left, but to think this dates back to the 1700s is pretty impressive. And as you can tell, I doubt very much has changed about the landscape since then. Relatively untouched. Beautiful day, beautiful day, beautiful location. I highly recommend the trip up here. I like to hike just for my health and just to get out in nature, but it's kind of cool when you can really add a piece of history to that. Like the French settlement. Rest in peace, English family and Francois Pierre de Tubeuf. I discovered in a picnic shelter this little sign that tells a little bit about the murder of the Frenchman. And I'm going to read it, Nick. It's not something that interests you. Probably want to skip across a few minutes because it looks pretty long. The text of the reward poster below describes the Frenchman's murderers. 1797, M. Farlane, James, and Ward John. $500 reward. Whereas a certain John Brown, alias Bonds, and Richard Barrow did in the month of April 1795 commit in the county of Russell, in the state of Virginia, a most horrid and deliberate murder and robbery on the body and property of Francis Peter Tubeuf and family, and have fled and are now fugitives from the justice of the state. We do, therefore, as agents for the Commonwealth of Virginia, offer the above reward of $500 to any person or persons who will deliver the said John Brown, alias Bonds, and Richard Barrow to us in the county where the murder was committed. The aforesaid Brown and Barrow were apprehended in the last of the month of May 1796 at the Illinois in New Design for the aforesaid crimes and broke custody. 1797. John Brown, alias Bonds, is about 5 feet 8 or 9 inches high, a thick-set, strong-made man, would weigh about 180 pounds, black, short, curly hair, dark-colored eyes, of a fresh, comely complexion. Appears to be a sober, sedate man. He hath lost 2 toes. He hath a small scar on one of his cheeks, about the size of a grain of corn, and it appears as if it were burnt. It appears if it was burnt. There we go. He hath a very remarkable scar on one of his legs on the inside of the calf. 25 or 30 years of age. Richard Barrow is nearly the same height and age with Brown, slender built, of a pale complexion, disagreeable countenance, and down look. Disagreeable countenance, that's cute. Hath a scald head, I don't know what that means. It is said it is getting better, I guess scald as in burnt, and always wore a handkerchief about it. He speaks thick and fast and appears of a rattling disposition. This guy sounds like me a little bit. History of the Frenchman. In 1790, Tubeuf, a French entrepreneur and coal mine owner, purchased a 55,000-acre tract in southwest Virginia on the Clinch River in Russell County. He did so against the counsel of Governor Morris, recently in Paris, who argued that the speculator offering the tract, Richard Smith of London, had almost certainly lied about the improvements on the land. These included roads to Abingdon and Philadelphia, which did not, in fact, exist. Nevertheless, Tubeff departed for America the following year with the ambition of creating a French colony and mining empire in Virginia. It was to be called St. Marie on the Clinch. Anticipating his lordship over his new estate, he changed his name to Baron de Tubeff. I like just changing your name. I'm Baron Simmons. His optimism was tempered as soon as he arrived in Richmond, where a number of his servants accepted offers of employment from citizens of the city rather than brave life on the frontier. When Tubeff reached his tract, he was advised by Colonel Smith of Abingdon not to settle there immediately, owing to recent Indian attacks. For the time being, Tubeff and his party resided at Russell County Courthouse. Early the next year, he occupied a home on a bluff overlooking the Clinch River, near the confluence of the Guess River, on land adjacent to his own tract. It was owned by John English, who had recently abandoned his property after his family had been killed by Indians. In 1792, a road was constructed from Russell County Courthouse to Tubeff's land. It was paid for with a 600-pound loan from the state of Virginia, which Tubeff had secured through an appeal to Patrick Henry. The state was garrisoned 6 soldiers in the vicinity of Tubeff. The state also garrisoned 6 soldiers in the vicinity of Tubeff's property to protect him and his family from Indians. Tubeff apparently received these extraordinary concessions based on his letter of recommendation from Lafayette. His immediate neighbors were less hospitable. Tubeff bitterly complained of the black tricks perpetrated against him by backwoodsmen. These included the practice of ostensibly taking him on explorations of his land, but instead leading him in circles and delivering him back to his own doorstep. Some neighbors frightened him by handling venomous snakes or leaving dead examples of the same at his home. Local Indians posed a more serious threat and prevented him from settling on the most favorable site on his tract. Either Indians or unfriendly whites were responsible for the untimely death of several of his dogs, horses, and cows. Nonetheless, Tubeff was persistent. By 1795, several other families had joined him from France, and his dream of a flourishing colony remained alive. On Election Day, April 1795, Tubeff invited into his home 2 men, Richard Barrow and John Brown, who had come to purchase some horses. After having a meal, the men attacked Tubeff, mortally wounding him, injured his son and niece, and stole property valued at 300 pounds. These men were, as this broadside indicates, captured in New Design, Illinois in May 1796, but soon escaped. The governor then commissioned James McFarland, and John Ward to apprehend the fugitives. They were never caught. In addition to Barrow and Brown, local reports indicated that as many as a dozen men conspired with Barrow and Brown to commit these crimes. 3 of these were sentenced to jail for their role in this conspiracy, the nature of which remains unknown. Following the murder of Tubeff, enthusiasm for building the settlement of St. Marie rapidly diminished. By 1803, his sons returned to France and the land was abandoned. Boy, that was a mouthful, but hope you enjoyed that. It gave a lot of good information. So, kind of sad a guy comes over here trying to truly live the American dream, or the French dream, I guess, but life came to a tragic end right here. Right where I'm standing, pretty much. Get on down the road. It's kind of sobering. It'd be good to look back on the property from a different vantage point. And then head into a little more overgrown area, it looks like. Should be interesting. Looks like we head into another bit of an incline, not too terribly daunting. Okay, this descent is beginning, which is good. And it's very handy little signs. For example, this shows this is an ash, a very hard and splinter-resistant hardwood. I for one appreciate that because I am not an expert on anything outdoorsy. It would be a shagbark hickory tree. And here's where the decline begins. You really can appears to go downhill pretty much from here. And as you can see, it's super well-worn path and well-marked, so there's really not much fear of getting lost up here. It's just a beautiful little hike. I wouldn't call it overly challenging. It's pretty long for, if you haven't been out in a while, it'll put you to a little bit of a test, but if you're somewhat fit or go at a pretty slow pace, it's pretty easy. Pretty easy trail. AmeriCorps Trail. This trail traverses an old mining road and was reopened by an AmeriCorps crew of young volunteers. That's neat. Not too surprising. A lot of coal mining went on in this area, so they had these old makeshift roads. Something else I probably need to mention is you can see there too that appears the water cuts a path through the path, and there's a lot of rocks, so I mean it's dry as a bone today, so it's not anything to worry about, but imagine when it's damp and wet, this could be a pretty dangerous spot to slip and fall and crack your noggin, so you would want to be careful of that. Hope you can hear that little stream. Just a teeny tiny trickle of water, basically. See the moss growing on the rocks. Sounds good now. This point of the trail kind of runs parallel to the railroad track down there, as you can see. Wish I'd get blessed with a train coming through here, but apparently not going to happen. Here's one of my favorite trees, a black walnut. A valuable furniture wood and nut producer. God, I love black walnuts. Love, love, love them. Well, there's something locally they call the Devil's Bathtub. This isn't it, by no means, but it is a little tiny bottle of water, body of water, and maybe they could market it as the Devil's Kiddie Pool, or maybe the Devil's Foot Massager. I actually like that one. The Devil's Foot Massager in St. Paul. Looks like we may be blessed with some frogs here before too long. 'Tis the season. There's another closer view of the train tracks beside you. Unfortunately, no train, but a good thing to see right here, for sure. Well, it appears I'm getting close to my end game. I see what the body of water I passed, which I have to guess was the Oxbow Lake, part of Oxbow Lake in the distance there. So this little journey will be coming to an end in a few minutes. Still got a little ways to walk, but the end is in sight. Sugar maple, a valuable hardwood tree once covering Sugar Hill. Okay, so I'm back where I started the video. As you can see, there's a walking trail here / running trail. Looks like we got some cross-country type event going on. But overall, I would say this is a pretty manageable hike. Not too bad at all. If you've got time. I think it took me, let's say, actually, I know exactly how much time it took me. An hour and a half, almost to the minute, and I took a lot of stops. I took a lot of pictures for my own personal use. So it's not bad at all. And I would highly suggest bringing some water for hydration and I kind of overdressed, I had a hoodie on, and of course my red shoes, my red Asics that my buddy James / Jim Peck enjoys so much, but not overly complicated. Very doable hike. So I highly recommend it. It's very clean, well kept, and well marked. Very good trail to start out with. Like I said, it's about 3.5 miles. Not overly rough if you take your time. Just get out and enjoy the beautiful weather while you can. And thank you for watching, liking, subscribing, commenting, sharing. And I especially want to thank my patrons this time, because this trip would not have happened without you. I withdrew $50 from my Patreon account to cover my gas expenses. So this literally would not have happened without you. Thank you so much. And for everybody else who sent donations, much appreciated. I love you guys, and I will see you on down the road. Thank you.